Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to another great episode of Secrets to Real Estate Investing by House Flip Masters. I'm your host, Holly McCann, and I have a really cool guest today. I have admired this guy for a couple of years that I've known him. I've seen him hanging around, in particular, as one investment club that I'm a part of called Invest Club based in Orange County. And this guy just has such a great story, and I was so excited to bring him on today for him to share kind of the story of his success and his journey and share some of his cool deals and things he's got going on. So he quit his job. He was just saying that this is the anniversary this week of 3 years ago that he quit his job and went real estate investing full time. So that's super cool. So with that, welcome to the show, Tim Gordon.
Thanks for having me on, Holly.
Oh, so glad to have you. Well, why don't you give our listeners a little bit of a background in your journey and what you did before real estate investing and how you kind of transitioned out?
Sure. I think since I've been like a teenager, I've worked. So it's just been, any kind of like teenager jobs from like my most favorite job ever, which was the garden shop at Kmart in high school.
I love that.
Or it was just so peaceful. And then I've done sales at like tire stores, and then I worked in the automotive industry, and then had my own window tinting business through college, which was my first foray into entrepreneurship, and it was a lot of fun. I kind of got hooked then, I would say. After that, I entered the corporate world, got into sales, was a territory manager for a company that made window tint for about 6 years. So I came to California in 2008, right when the economy was tanking and everything was, going bad out here. And after 3 years at that company, I was getting a little impatient with my career path and could see that it wasn't really going to be something that was very fulfilling long term. And a girl I was dating introduced me to real estate investing, and we didn't work out. But after we broke up, I started hitting all the investment clubs, and then that led me into wholesaling, to owning properties, and now I flip, and here I am today. We're doing real estate full time.
That's awesome. I love that. So that was maybe the best relationship of your life, not because of the person, but where it led, huh?
It was just funny. It was a really good experience because it taught me that certain things, I think I had a belief system that said I couldn't do certain things, or that I was in a certain category or class system. And it was interesting just to hang out with somebody and realize that a lot of that was just mindset. And if you're willing to make certain adjustments, then they can allow you to do those things over time. And so, it was very meaningful for that reason.
That's awesome. I love it. Well, take us back to like when you started learning about real estate investing, and how did you start? Did you start out with wholesaling, and how did you do that?
It started out with Bigger Pockets,
Okay.
and that website was still pretty new at the time. And then it led me to the Real Estate Investment Club. So I went to San Diego Investment Club first, and then Invest Club for Women the following week. And Invest Club was definitely the catalyst. They had the 60-day challenge. They had Iris running the show, and all of that was just absolutely everything that I needed to get me going. And that led me into learning about wholesaling. And then I realized that for my skill set, wholesaling was a really good opportunity. And that led me into wholesaling for about 3 to 4 years, full time, basically, while doing a day job as well. And then I picked off a few deals to keep for myself along the way.
That's cool. Well, and for you listeners that don't know of the famous Iris Veneration, she's actually episode 1 on my podcast. She has a fantastic story, and what an incredible inspiration and giver she is. She loves to teach and help others. And she has a program that she runs about once a year now called the 60-day challenge. And it's like the most intense real estate investing experience I've ever heard. Like, if you don't do your homework, she kicks you out, and she does kick people out of the challenge. I've seen it. So that's a really cool thing. So go back and listen to episode 1 if you want to learn more about Iris and her story.
The challenge was the foundation for it all. So definitely.
Really cool opportunity, but it is an in-person thing. So if you don't live in Southern California, sorry. Yeah. Anyway, well, moving on, when you started wholesaling, did you do direct marketing? Were you sending out mailers? Were you networking? How did you get your deals?
The first year I was trying to wholesale, I was very unsuccessful at it, and I was trying to use pretty much every free method that there was, MLS, referral, other people's deals, things like that. Then I switched to more targeted marketing through direct mail, and then that was how I got the majority of my deals. That isn't how I get deals today, but I also don't focus on wholesaling as much now. So, but direct mail will get you deals if you're willing to do it.
So do you mind sharing with us how much you would spend to do that? And were you only focused in Southern California, or were you focused out of state?
I've done it both areas, but the most success I've had has been in Southern California, but that's also because that's where my interest is. And so I'd mail elsewhere, and I've done deals elsewhere, but if I had a shiny object pop in front of me in San Diego, in Southern California, I would pretty much ignore anything else there. And I've delegated off deals and done deals there in Michigan, but still the shiny objects of San Diego keep bringing me back. I would you're probably going to spend about $4,000 to $5,000 a month on marketing if you want full-time income off of wholesaling. So, because you're going to need about that to get a deal at a minimum consistently. And
what would the $4,000 to $5,000 a month hopefully lead you to income-wise?
It could be anywhere from $5,000 wholesale to a $50,000 wholesale. So there's really no guessing there. Right.
Well, why don't you tell us about your best wholesale deal ever?
I'd say the best ever was a few years ago, and it was just because it was a partnership, and I made a business partner out of it, and I made 18 grand, and he made 30 grand, and we did it over beers at a hotel lobby at one of the local investment clubs. So that's probably my favorite, and honestly, it's not the money, it's the friendship that I got out of it that is my favorite part. But it was still the easiest. And then there's been a few others. There was one where I got a dog a home, and that was really, really fun too, because I loved the dog. I wanted to keep him, but I couldn't. And so that was probably my second favorite deal.
I love that you said that, because we got the sweetest, best dog ever from a house we bought to flip. Yeah. This really, really cute dog. Her name is Katie. We've given her away because my daughter didn't want to take care of her anymore. But it was so funny. My husband walks in to the people that are to the house. The people are getting out. I think we bought it at auction. So it was the knock, knock. We bought your house. You got to get out. And then Katie, we call her a golden wiener because she's a golden retriever in the shape of a wiener dog. It's so funny. And he's like, oh, what a nice dog, because she's all over him and all nice. Like, you want her? Yes, we want her. It was so great because they raised pit bulls, and I guess Katie didn't fit in with the whole pit bull dynamic. So yeah, you never know what you're going to get out of a house deal. That's funny, the dog thing. Well, what would you say? Can you remember the most money you ever made on a wholesale deal?
It's got to be approaching close to 40 grand. I would say.
Wow, I love that, because I've done plenty of flips that I haven't even done that well. And believe me, a flip is a lot more work than a wholesale deal. Huh?
My first flip, I did not make 40 grand. So I'm aware of the work that goes into a rehab.
Oh, yeah. So why don't you tell us about the whole transition from how you quit your job? And was that scary, or were you totally confident? Had you had so much success? No,
it was terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying. I stayed too long. I didn't have the confidence that some people have when it comes to the quitting of the job. And the other part was my job was it was just such an amazing setup that it was one of the hardest things to give up, because it was basically almost 6 figures a year, a free car, free gas, free phone, free insurance. You didn't have a single expense. I had kind of 80-20 ruled my dealers. And so no one called me unless it was a major problem and they were a big dog, and everyone else, I just didn't care about them, because I didn't care if I didn't get their business, because I was making just as much money wholesaling. And so I basically just wanted the health insurance and the salary and the car, and for my boss not to look bad, because I did like my direct manager. And so I wanted to make sure that he didn't look bad. And, but I should have left a long time sooner. It would have, I just wasn't challenging myself. But the nice thing is I left on good terms. I didn't take unemployment or anything like that. It was a clean break. And a few months later, I was terrified when, the deals weren't coming in as quickly as they used to. And I wasn't used to some of the seasonal slumps that you can get in real estate when it comes to marketing for deals. You know, if you're on the 4th of July, for example, it just goes flat. So yeah, I had my freak out. You know, you post on Facebook that you've done something, the world tells you that you're amazing. A month later, you wake up, the direct deposit stopped, and you're just, you know, like freaking out. But yeah, over time it got better. And the funny thing is now that I'm more well established, I actually set up the company so that I'm an employee, and then I just get a direct deposit paycheck every 2 weeks. And I know that it's my money just going from one bank account to the other, but for whatever reason, that just makes me feel better. It makes me feel like a normal person who's just getting a paycheck every 2 weeks, and it doesn't stress me out as much. And I actually take less money from the business then.
Oh, that's smart, because it's kind of like an allowance, like, oh, this is what I have to live off of, right?
Yeah, and it's just nice and simple. And for me, I realized that it lifted a lot of stress that was just kind of there for no reason, basically, just because I was used to a certain structure. And then I was like, well, crap, I can just recreate that structure. And then it, for whatever reason, my mind just seems to be happy about it. So I don't fight it.
I love it. I mean, I keep hearing this theme of mindset coming through. There's so much of this business that is about your mind, isn't it?
It freaks me out sometimes. Like maybe I'm acutely aware of it because I've seen how it's affected me in good ways and bad ways over the years. But it blows my mind. I mean, like I can meet someone at a real estate meeting and I can tell within like a minute if they're going to do a deal in the next year. Like,
seriously?
All right, maybe I'm exaggerating a little, but I think that for the most part, you can tell because there's just a certain way a person is operating, and you're like, okay, they're here. Like they are not messing around. And yeah, so I'll stand by that statement, actually.
I love that. And I know I've heard you offer to people, even publicly at clubs, hey, if you've got a deal, you know, bring it to me, you know, maybe we can, you know, do it together. Because obviously you've got a serious buyers list. You've been doing this business for many years. And probably when someone comes to you, whether they have a deal or not, you're sizing them up and assessing them like how good of a player they are, huh?
I guess, I mean, part of me is because I know I have to, part of me wants to know if the deal's decent or if it's worth my time. And so I think, yeah, part of it is that is occurring. But on the other hand, too, I had such a hard time when I got into this business that I think part of me is looking at them and I'm almost like looking at myself. And if I see certain things there, then I want to see if I can kind of help like knock them in the right direction a little bit, just because I tripped along the way so many times. And those little pieces of guidance can really help along the way. You know, this is a team sport. So I'd say for the most part, anything I say, it's because I want someone to succeed, even if it sounds a little harsh.
Oh, I love it. And you hit the nail on the head there when you said this is a team sport. I mean, I think I was mentioning to you before we got on the call that I'm heading off to a mastermind lunch.
I know, I'm bummed I can't go.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate to be having been, you know, personally invited into this group of investors. It's really serious players. They're all very experienced. It's invite only. It's not, you know, kind of like some of these real estate clubs where there's lots of people that are tire kickers and checking it out. But because I went to that I bought 2 deals last year at 65% of after repaired value. They're in LA. Like that's pretty much unheard of. But because I went to this group and it was a win-win, you know, the whole thing. This is a team sport. If you just hibernate in your office by yourself and try and do everything online and never talk to anyone, you are not going to begin to have the success of someone that is willing to get out there and talk to people. I
have a great person who comes to mind when you mentioned that, just because there's a lady that contacted me. I can't remember how long ago it was, but it was a while ago, and she was a local investor in San Diego, more passive, and they had cash and they wanted to do deals. And they said, hey, you know, put us on your buyers list. And I said, look, like getting into this, you know, like this is going to be tough. You should partner. I was like, you got the cash. Like you've got something really good to bring to the table. You know, let someone else do the other work. And at first they wouldn't listen. And a few months later, I was like, you got a deal yet? And they're like, no. And I'm like, you thought about partnering? And then I just saw them a few weeks ago, and they're splitting a $180,000 check where they finally partnered with someone.
Wow.
And I think they're doing like a flip/development thing. But either way, I mean, like it's a monster check. And it was just so funny because we all have to check our egos at the door sometimes when it comes to this business. And it's so funny when we do that, how quickly, like it's almost just like we're like we're in an inner tube floating downstream versus like trying to canoe upstream. And so,
yes. Yeah, just like you only have so much eyesight and hearing ability to have deals on your radar. So the more you can network out there. Okay, which I wasn't going to mention this till the end, but it's like the perfect opportunity as far as I've got a Facebook group going now that's a private group, and it is a great place for people to network, post deals, sell deals, look for partners. Of course, I cannot vet the hundreds of people that are going to be in there. That's up to you to do, but go network on Facebook and Facebook groups. So mine is Hard Hat Holly's Real Estate Investing Team, because this is a team sport. So go check that out. I do have to approve you. I don't just let anyone in. So if there's like fake bots and spammers, I'm not letting them in. So go join up in real estate groups and real estate Facebook groups and do some deals. Okay, Tim, I am very interested for you to share about your deal that you mentioned with the FHA 203K loan. Tell us about that deal.
All right. It's funny. I like being asked about that one the most, and it's probably the one that gets the least attention, and it cracks me up because it is by far like the most profitable, like smart decision I've ever made in my life, and everyone just wants to hear about like a $10,000 wholesale check. So I was working in the corporate world. I knew I needed to get a loan to, use up the loans before you quit. That's kind of what everyone tells you to do, like in your like little blueprint to firing your boss. And so I knew I wanted up to a 4-unit, you can get a loan on it like a normal single family house. So I thought, okay, I'm going to go for, like, that's my personality. I was like, all right, like go 4, let's just go the biggest. And I was really fortunate. Someone came to me with a lead, and they said, hey, I've got this 4-unit apartment. I think we could wholesale it. And then I remember about a week prior, I'd actually kind of like sat down and made out my decisions. I was like, all right, I want a 4-unit apartment anywhere in San Diego County, and I want a house in Oceanside. And I was very specific, and instantly this pops up. The place was in terrible shape. There were people selling heroin out of it. One of the units was vacant, destroyed. And then I'd heard about this 203K loan, where basically the lender will give you money to repair the property. The catch is basically they're going to appraise it as if it was fixed up. So the amount that you borrow to buy it and to fix it is going to have to be less than the amount that they think it's worth once it's fixed, because they're not going to jump on board to a proposition that loses money. So you've really got to find a good deal. And then also, these loans are notorious for just being a massive pain in the ass. And so convincing anybody to taking on a buyer like this is basically like saying, hey, we're going to make your life difficult for 2 months.
Yeah.
Feel like doing it. But the seller was dead set on a number, and it was probably about 20 grand higher than any cash investor would buy in San Diego at the time. And they didn't seem to care about the timeline. The other catch was you had to take the drug dealers with the property. So a lot of the cash investors, such as yourself at the time, like that's a proposition in 2013 that most people weren't willing to take on without a big cushion. Now maybe today they would, but back then we had more freedom and more availability of deals. So for the little guy, this was the perfect window to get in, because I could take on the risks that the other people weren't willing to take on, and I could convince the seller to take this loan. And what was really fortunate was the real estate agent, it was a pocket listing. The agent actually knew somebody that I just wholesaled a really big deal to. So that was enough for me to convince them that I was a player, even though I barely knew what I was doing and I just barely gotten that wholesale through. Like to the exterior, it looked like I was this guy that had everything figured out. So it was perfect. And for $15,000 down, which is basically a wholesale fee back in 2013, I got a 4-unit apartment building, and it rented for about $3,600 a unit at the time, and it was pretty trashed. It's probably had about $45,000 in repairs, $50,000. All the units are all done perfectly now. And I just did the math actually today. It's going to rent, every unit total is $4,700 a month in income. So it makes me about $1,000 a month. And I've gained about $350,000 worth of equity.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
A $15,000 investment. So I kind of have to pinch myself sometimes with that place. I mean, it blows my mind just how well that went. And the property was bought right, and I just went through it well. But yeah, I love being a landlord. I'm really proud of that purchase. So
So what did you purchase it for then?
I bought it for $322.
Okay.
And this is a 3,600 square foot, 8 bedrooms, 4 bath, 2-on-2, just a rectangle. It appraised at just over 700 recently. And I mean, yeah, a single family house sold for 300 next door to it like a year later. And that was what I paid for the whole place. It was just nuts. It was such a crap hole, but it had the best bones. I nearly got assaulted the first time I was there. It was a rough property. But
so what do you do with the drug dealers? Did you offer to let them continue their enterprise just for a cut, or what do you do there?
Day one, I cut down a tree in front of their unit so that there was full visibility of the property while drinking a beer at like 7 in the morning. So I kind of I really wanted to convey to them that like, this guy is nuts. Like, this guy is not worth the hassle. Then I basically, because if you buy a property, like, I have no proof that they destroyed the unit. So like, their deposit is technically theirs. And luckily for me, they didn't know that. So I just said, hey, if you don't like it here, why are you here? And they said, oh, well, we're not going to get our deposit. And I said, well, how about this? If you leave in 14 days, you get your deposit back. If you leave in 15, you don't. And they were gone on like day 11. And the sheriff's department was actually about to raid them. They'd called me the day prior and said, get a locksmith ready. And I just said, well, they might leave on their own accord. And, they're like, well, we'll see. And I'm like, yeah, we will see, because I'd rather not replace the door. And so $1,000, and they were gone 11 days. And then obviously the biggest threat to the whole property was now gone. And it took about a year, of like decent security lights and, very, kind of consistent visits to make sure that element was truly gone. But after that, it's the most quiet property ever now. It's just so peaceful. So
that's really nice. Did you experience, like me personally, when I started landlording, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I didn't really consider Googling, tips for landlords or anything. My husband would just sometimes he would knock on a door after we bought a house at auction, and the people would say, can we please stay? We'll pay this much for rent. He's like, okay, that's good. Okay, we got a rental. Like, it was accidental rentals. Then he'd let, you had this one lady get 7 months behind. So I learned by trial and error a lot. And then one time I found this course in his office, like how to do rentals by Mike Cantu or something like that. I'm like, why do you tell me you had some help for me? Because, I'm like, what was your experience being a landlord? Did you get any education, or did you just jump in like me and try and figure it out as you went?
Well, it's funny, like I feel like I'm 34 now. And so I can definitely feel like kind of a maturity turning point right now. And I can see where I was definitely too accommodating to my tenants in the past, but I think it was in a very good proactive way, and it was minor in the ways that it had affected me. But I'm very good with my money, and I did what they call house hacking, like in my early 20s, where I would rent a house and then rent rooms out to people, and so that gave me a really good experience. I'm probably one of the best people there is at screening tenants, because I was screening people to live with me for years, and that's even more of an effort than it is for just a unit. But the very first group of tenants, I had 2 units to fill, and both of them weren't that great of tenants. And the first one said I got out within a year because they were a massive pain to the other tenants. And so, yeah, it was definitely a bit trial and error. You cannot be like a friend to your tenants, and you have to just follow such strict guidelines. And it's so like no brainer. And if you're not following it, it's because of you don't want to be mean to people, or you don't like just that's a good trick is create a mystery partner, and they are the bad cop.
Oh, I love that.
And then
so
hey, can I have a dog? Nope, sorry, my partner said no dogs. And like, hey, can we do this? Nope, my partner is he's a mean person, doesn't like dogs. Sorry, sorry, the rent's got to go up. And I think setting expectations is good too. Like, for example, new tenants, now I tell them the rent's going to go up 3% every year, like at a minimum, it's going up 3%. And it's not going to get some crazy number. I'm not going to bump it 10%, but expect it 3%. If there's an issue with the unit, I want to fix it. Don't do this whole, we're not calling you because we're afraid he's going to be mad, or, and the proactiveness is how you make a property just so seamless. Like my place, it's just such a well-operated machine, and it's just having that systems and the structures in place. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. We had some tenants once they had a sink dripping, and it went so far that it rotted out the whole cabinet, the subfloor, everything. Yep. And like, we didn't want to call because we didn't want you to raise the rent. Like, hey, you just cost me like $1,000. Now I'm going to raise the rent. You know, I mean, it wasn't like that.
I tell them all, like, water is my like arch nemesis. I was like, if it's anything else, like, you can wait till a normal hour, but if it's water, like, you need to let me know right away. And I've even like let them know where the water shutoff is. There's on the outside of the building, because I've had an issue where I was in Taiwan and a shower started just shooting water straight out. And it was the night before Thanksgiving. I nearly lost my mind. Like, it was the worst landlording experience of my life. Like, but it got solved. That was the funny part, was it got solved. So it was a lesson that the worst thing can possibly happen, and it still works out, and to just chill.
Okay, well, next time you're in Taiwan, message me on Facebook, and I'll help you out with your plumbing things. Because, you know, I have to say thanks again for keeping an eye on my flip in Oceanside and watching for the people that would move in, the squatters. That was an interesting neighborhood over there. Yeah. Okay, now that you mentioned Taiwan, you opened the door there. I think you have done some amazing adventures and trips and travels in your life. So tell us where you've been able to go because of this business.
Sure. Well, and that was the main reason for the business for me, was the flexibility. I really felt like I kind of missed out in my early 20s, you know, and like didn't have a lot of fun. And so as an adult, I was like, okay, I need to travel more, do more. And I've been to Cuba, I've been to Australia, all over Mexico, Central America. I'm originally from England, so I grew up there till I was 11, been all around there. I'm going to India in January to do a thing called the rickshaw run, where you drive a tuk-tuk, which is a 7-horsepower like taxi, and a friend and me are driving it 3,000 kilometers across the entire length of India.
Oh my gosh, I've never heard of such a thing. You're like the most adventurous dude. I love seeing like the occasional Facebook post and you're like ziplining through a jungle and like all this amazing stuff. That is so cool.
I think it's fun to challenge. I mean, well, real estate investing is a way of challenging yourself. I'm sure that's, you know, one of the reasons why you know, even this podcast. And so it's, you know, challenging yourself in your career and, you know, in your relationships and, you know, physically. And for me, that's the fun of it, is, you know, trying out that different stuff. And sometimes it's nice just to sit on your butt at home too. So I'm not always like, you know, like ziplining everywhere. So.
Okay, yeah, and that leads me into the next question, is kind of like, what are you doing now? What are you focusing on now? What's the future got in store for you? Are you wholesaling, flipping, landlording, all of the above? What's your plan now?
I'm still wholesaling, but I've shifted my model to more inbound marketing. So I want the leads where there's a pretty high chance that they want to sell a house. And I know there's going to be fewer of those, but I realized that it's really labor intensive to chase leads. And I tend to do better with the really good ones. And since I'm flipping now, you need less deals to be successful. And I've realized I'm a pretty good flipper. So for me, it's cherry pick a few, wholesale a few if they come through. But honestly, I don't know, like, I'm not that person that wants to make a fortune. I just need enough to, you know, cover what I need covered. And then I would like to go work on some other stuff. So I might check out after this deal's done and go learn some more Spanish or something.
Cool. So you're sounding a little Tim Ferriss for our work weekish there.
Well, it's funny. I really am starting to think that we put up barriers to stop ourselves from getting the things that we want. Because I started doing the math, and if I were to sell my fourplex or move that money to another state, I'd have the money to live on. So I'm already not doing that for some reason, which I have to figure out. But I can Airbnb my house and go live somewhere else, and I've done the math, like, it's affordable, you know. So I'm kind of wondering how many people, if really given the opportunity to, like, that $10,000 a month that everyone says they want, would they really stop working, and what would they really do? Because I'm having to think about that right now, and I have no clue what I want.
I know, and you're so young. You're like, okay, what next?
But I live very simple though. I mean, so I don't ever think I'm like it. That to me is the trick, is to keep it really lean, and then you don't have to make a ton of money, and you don't have to be a slave to the dollar. If you know, being wise with your money, and I'm also fortunate. I'm single right now. You know, if I had a family, I would obviously, my mindset would be a lot different. So.
Yeah, I got to tell you, it was like, what's the right description? Shock when my then 16-year-old walked up to me 6 months ago and goes, "Mom, I think with my track stats and what I looked up online, I think I could get into Stanford. I think I want to go to Stanford." I'm like, oh. There's a $250,000 I wasn't planning on. Oops. Okay.
Well, I mean, I paid for all of my college education except for about $10,000. And I've got to say, I think that's one of the things that shaped me into being able to do what I do right now. And so I'm not saying that people shouldn't pay for their kids' college, but I think it really helped me. You know, I don't think I would have nearly what I have now if it was handed to me.
I agree. I'm going to share that with Max. Okay.
Well, there's like a creative middle ground. Maybe I'm the extreme, you know, of the one side, and so maybe there's like a nice middle ground, and I'm sure there is, and that probably would create the best balance.
Oh yeah. Okay, I got one more real estate question, then we'll be wrapping up. What does inbound leads mean in the wholesaling world? What does that mean?
Okay, so an inbound lead to me, and maybe I was in the shower when this came to mind, so maybe I'm calling it the wrong thing even. But it basically means like to me it's a web lead or a hot lead. So it's someone who has sought me out, found me, and is now contacting me about buying their property. So I haven't sent them any marketing. I haven't contacted them. They've researched it and found me. So that type of lead tends to have a high interest. To me, there's almost like a 9 out of 10 chance they're going to sell that house. It just might not be a fixer. So it could, quite often, honestly, it's a retail listing, and it's just this wacky owner who thinks that if they find a buyer, you know, they'll save on the commission. And I basically, 2 seconds, I'm like, no, bye. But occasionally it's someone who's basically done the math, you know, and they're saying, yeah, okay, between commissions and fixing, maybe a cash buyer is a better route. And they're saying, hey, why don't we see if we can find one? And then the beauty of the internet is it circumvents the real estate agent. And so not always, but sometimes you can get a deal off of it. And I really like those types of deals. So I'm going to focus on those for now.
So you're doing pay-per-click.
Organic.
Are you doing Facebook? Oh, organic. So SEO only. Okay.
Yep.
Very cool. Because I've heard of people having success with pay-per-click and Facebook ads, but I know pay-per-click is so pricey. I don't know. I'm kind of scared to go into that because I don't know what I'm doing, but I am, you know, considering that. So.
Well, the nice thing about pay-per-click is that you could change your region with the click of a button, and but the downfall of pay-per-click is if you don't understand it, it is just going to siphon money from you. And ethically, I have a problem with pay-per-click because Google benefits from malicious clicks by your competitors. So they don't have any interest in protecting you. And so as a consumer who's paying for a service, I don't feel like I'm being represented or protected by Google. But people do get deals off of it. I think in a like a sub-market, like a different market, I think it would be a great thing to test out. But I think in Southern California, it's just such a big, messy market with those keywords that you probably wouldn't get a good grip of it, and you just lose a couple grand.
Well, thank you for that advice. I appreciate it.
But it's great for testing a sub-market too, because you can like, oh, let's throw $1,000 at this city and see what happens, and you're not really that worried. And because California marketing money is like big marketing money in any other market.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Perk if you kind of shift and look anywhere else.
Hey, if you're looking to connect with anyone, since this podcast is nationwide, where would you want someone to, who are some people that you might want to connect with, like what states?
If I'm doing deals, it's probably gonna be in North Carolina or Michigan, or if it's anything to do with a mobile home park, I would just say anywhere, contact me.
Oh, you're into mobile home parks. Oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
Well, it's my ultimate goal, and I mean, the thought has always been, should I trade my fourplex, you know, towards a good mobile home park? And I've been looking for some off-market ones, and I've started to hone my craft at searching for them, but I haven't quite mastered it. But that's one of the other things with this free time is I wanted some free time so I could step away from the grind and then figure out what it is that I want, because I felt like I was on autopilot. So
yeah. Time for a new challenge. You're gonna go be like the master of the mobile home park.
Well, it's just interesting. It's the difference between being a farmer and a hunter. And a farmer, you know, is growing their crop, and that's the rental to me. And the hunter is the flips of the wholesales.
Love it. Okay, so as we wrap up here, what's your best advice for someone who's considering jumping into real estate investing or who's new and starting out? What's your best advice for them?
Oh man, there's like so much. I would say make sure that you're kind to yourself in the process, because sometimes folks get into this and there's an assumption that it needs to be hard or that it has to be this grind. You need to, you know, I'd say it should be a really fun journey and it's really interesting. So I would say, you know, enter it with enthusiasm and looking back now, I realize I definitely made it at times a lot harder than it needed to be. So I would kind of just say, like, just enjoy the ride, like take it seriously, but don't be hard on yourself.
Or as we say in Southern California, chill out, right?
Chill out.
Okay, now Tim has like a really nice little freebie that he's offering up for this episode. So go to hardhatholly.com/53. We're episode 53. And Tim, tell him what you're going to offer, your contract and agreement thing.
Sure. I seem to get emailed all the time about wholesale contracts and assignment contracts. So I took one that I've used for years and just entered in blank information where it needs to be entered, and it's now available in a Word document that's editable. So if someone wants to try and wholesale or assign in California, I can't speak on if it's legally valid or if it works or not, and it's more as an example, but
yes,
it's a pretty good example to base things off of, so that will be available for folks to download.
Awesome. Yes, consult your lawyer. Neither Tim nor I are lawyers, and I'm sure it would work great in other states too after your lawyer reviews it. So yeah, there you go. And for people that want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
I would say probably my website, which is gordonbuyshomes.com. I don't go on Facebook too often. You can email me directly by my website, and all the phones reach me at some point or another. So I would just say go direct to the website.
Awesome. Yeah. And I know Tim has in the past been a great networker and connector. If you're a wholesaler with a deal and you don't have a list of buyers, he'd probably help you out with that if you're in Southern California too, right?
If anyone's got a deal, even if they just want a piece of advice, I'm happy to assist. I try and avoid advice on hypothetical deals, but real deals, I'll give advice.
Awesome. Love it. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Tim. This has been very inspirational, exciting. And boy, I can't wait to hear about the adventures in India when those go down. Cool.
I'm really nervous.
All right. Well, with that, get out there and take some action. Listeners, get out there and do it, because obviously this is a doable business. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Hey there. Thanks for watching the video. Make sure you like it and click subscribe to get notified of more videos. And you can go to hardhatholly.com for a free download on secrets to finding great deals.